Now it's good?
Yeah.
I think it's good. Hopefully you're good. Okay. All right. So what it's wanting us to do here, Sienna, is basically compare and contrast. So you have an author that wrote the first article, right? And this is by Theodore Herzl, and it's the Jewish state. And then you also have the other article that has to do with Syria and the Holy Land by Sir George Adams, okay? So we're going to compare and contrast the two. First, I want to talk a little bit about the breakdown of this article, right? Were you able to read this at all?
No.
Okay. So what it's basically telling you is that it's wanting you to annotate, and we've been doing annotation throughout the packet, okay? So what that looks like is by reading and then kind of pulling out what you think the author is trying to say. Okay, so what this has to do with is that the author Theodore, he's talking about he was a visionary of the state. He was also a playwright. He was a political activist, meaning that he stood up for the Jewish people. He believed that they should be treated fair. He believed that there should be a safe housing for them, which at the time there wasn't. So he was really concerned. He was a writer who was a father of modern political Zonius. So what he did was he created this organization and he promoted Jewish immigration, right, to Palestine in an effort to form a Jewish state, okay? So he wanted what? What do you think he wanted?
To, like, just have everything, like, everybody get along and...
He wanted the people who were what?
Jewish.
To be treated fairly,
yeah,
right? He wanted them to have land. It says, but the Jews once settled in their own state would probably have no more enemies. He didn't want them to have any more enemies. The Jews who wish, okay, will have their state, homeland. He wanted them to have a home. And he was, you know how I talk a lot about self-advocacy and telling me what you need? Mm-hmm. Tell me if you need help. Let the history teacher know if you need help. Let Mrs. Mills know if you need help. Now you're taking Mrs. Anderson's class, letting her know if you needed help. This is what he did. He wanted everybody to know we are a people, one people. He's saying we are the people, right? We mm-hmm. deserve to be treated fairly and to have a fair place to stay. Zionism supports Jewish upholding, okay? Their Jewish identity defined basically being able to have this Jewish religion, okay? And he, like I said, he advocated to return the Jews to Israel. And he was big on that, and that's why they called him the visionary of the state, because he stood up for them, okay? So the first... What I did here was I annotated, okay? So what I did was I said it involved a national movement of Jewish people to reestablish a Jewish homeland in Palestine, okay? Revival movement in response to anti-Semitism, which basically they didn't want Jewish people to be treated unfairly and to be made fun of, that type of thing. He had an envision of the state, and he wanted it to, he wanted religious institutes, so like churches, right? Mm-hmm. He wanted them to be recognized, and he wanted them to be able to practice what they believed in, okay? So, based off of this article, this portion is wanting you to compare and contrast, okay? So what I did was, instead of looking at exactly, word for word, having you read everything that this article says, we talked about it, and I have a couple of questions, okay? So the first question says, why is the Jewish state, okay, that's what they called it, the Jewish state article, important, okay? Based off of what we just talked about, why do you think Theodore wrote this article?
Because he wanted everybody to be, like, equal. He wanted everything to be fair.
Yeah, he wanted to find a solution.
Yeah.
He wanted to find a solution and establish a homeland. You're exactly right. So I want you to write that there for me. Okay, let's see. Next question. Can you read it for me?
How would you put the Jewish state in your own words?
Okay. So he states people are, and I took it just from here. Theodore states that the Jewish people are one and have power under international law to live freely in their desired state of Palestine. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, based off of that, what do you think he wanted?
To everybody have their homeland.
Good. And what else?
To have their own state and live freely and peacefully.
And have what else? And he wanted to create what?
A church.
Yes, religions, right? Where I think they call them universities,
Mm-hmm.
to where they could study and practice their beliefs. So can you write that there? Good.
I could put and create church, like the church.
Yes, you can say that. That's fine. Because it says, the question says, in your own words. Yes. Good. Perfect. Good job. Okay, the next question. But before we talk about it, well, let's read it. Okay, it says, what assumptions underlie or are hidden, okay, so hidden within the Jewish state? So we know that that Jewish people have struggled with religion, okay, and personal freedoms. They didn't have the same rights that you and I have, right? If somebody studies Christianity or somebody studies Catholic religion, whatever it may be, they struggle to have that acceptance, and they didn't have that guarantee freedom, okay? And what Theodore is saying is that he wanted that for them. He didn't want them to be discriminated against, okay? So, what assumptions are hidden in this article?
That he just wanted to be rewarded of a status.